family. So good to be with you guys again for another week of Youth Online. If this is your first time with us, we just want to say welcome. We are stoked that you're with us. We have a welcome card in our description of our YouTube video, so go ahead and click that. We'd love to get something to you in the mail to just welcome you. Again, we're so excited that you're here. If you want to stay up to date with everything going on in our youth ministry, go ahead and head to our website, cedarmill.church/youth, and sign up for our weekly email. This is where you'll find out new information, what the gathering will look like each week, and some fun things to stay updated with. So go ahead and sign up for that there. And we're going to head into a time of worship if you guys would pray with me. Jesus, thank you that you are here with us, that you're in this space, that you have never left our side. Throughout this whole season, you've been with us, you've been loving us, you've been speaking to us, and we just thank you that you never change, Jesus. You are always faithful, you are always good, and you keep the promises that you make to us. I pray that as we worship, that we would just be aware of your presence, be aware of your love that you pour out so freely, Jesus. And let us just draw close to you in this time, Father. We love you so much, and it's in your name. Amen. Are you hurting and broken within, overwhelmed by the weight of your sin? Jesus is calling. Have you come to the end of yourself? Do you thirst for a drink from the well? Jesus is calling. Oh, come to the altar. The Father's arms are open wide. Forgiveness was bought with the precious blood of Jesus Christ. Leave behind your regrets and mistakes. Come today, there's no reason to wait. Jesus is calling. Bring your sorrows and trade them for joy. From the ashes a new life is born. Jesus is calling. Oh, come to the altar. The Father's arms are open wide. Forgiveness was bought with the precious blood of Jesus Christ. Oh, come to the altar. The Father's arms are open wide. Forgiveness was bought with the precious blood of Jesus Christ. So what a Savior, isn't he wonderful? Sing hallelujah, Christ is risen. Bow down before him, for he is Lord of all. Sing hallelujah, Christ is risen. And so what a Savior,
Jesus Christ, oh come to the altar. The Father's arms are open wide. Forgiveness was bought with the precious blood of Jesus Christ. Bear your cross as you wait for the crown. Tell the world of the treasure you found.
So we taught you this song called Communion last week at Youth and Night, and we would love to sing it with you guys again. So the words will be on the screen, and go ahead and sing along with us.
Take me back to the garden. Lead me back to the moment I heard your voice. Take me back to communion. Lead me back to the moment I saw your face. And it was oh so simple. It was easy to love. No space between us. It was easy to trust. 'Cause you are closer, closer than I can. You are in the air I'm breathing in. Here's where the dead things come back to living. I feel my heart beating again. It feels so good to know you are my friend. This is the garden. Here in the place I find you close. This is communion. Here in the place I fully know. And it was oh so simple. You're so easy to love. here's where the dead things come back to living. I feel my heart beating again. And here's where the dead things come back to living. I feel my heart beating again. It feels so good to know you are my friend.
What's up, youth family? I hope you guys are doing super well today. I think of you guys. I pray for you guys all the time. And I'm really looking forward to seeing you guys on the first Wednesday of next month. Make sure that you can be there so that we can see each other in person. Today we're going to start, we're actually going to do our second week of our series on the topic or the idea of comparison, or what it looks like, or how do we navigate through this whole concept of comparing ourselves with other people. And today, more specifically, we're talking about jealousy. And I remember in high school, there was this kid who was kind of like the sports star in school. He was kind of the talk of the town. I lived in a small town, but because of his talents, like, everyone was always talking about him. Like, he was a good-looking fella. He always drove this super nice truck. Everyone, it always kind of seemed like oohs and ahs kind of followed him around. Like, oh, there's the kid, right? And his family seemed super put together. For whatever reason, they were just always like, cling, like super happy, super energetic. Doesn't really seem like there's any family dynamics that were awkward or anything. And best of all, this kid was just a genuinely nice guy. He was just super kind. He was never saying anything ill-fitting about another person. In fact, like, I don't remember him ever saying anything poor about another person. And I really liked this kid. But as the years went on, as I made my way through high school, it became more difficult for me to be stoked on this guy. Like, it seemed as though he had everything that you could ever want as a high school student. He was the most likable kid in school, but I slowly began to dislike him. Not because he had done anything wrong to me. Like, everything seemed so right with this kid. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I was dealing with jealousy. Maybe you too have experienced what it's like to be envious or jealous of another person. Sometimes jealousy can lead us to be slightly agitated at someone. And sometimes it can lead us to be, or to just straight up dislike a person. It's a really weird kind of concept. He or she may be one of the nicest people you know. That's what's crazy about jealousy. And maybe maybe this person has never done anything remotely mean to you. But once jealousy creeps into our heart, we tend to view them differently. Think about it. There are some people you don't like because they're mean to you. Like, maybe they ignore you, or they call you names, or they talk bad about you. Maybe they spread rumors about you. But then sometimes there are people you dislike who have never done anything harmful towards you as a person. And the only reasonable explanation for you not liking them is that you may be jealous of who they are. And it could be for a million different reasons, right? It could be their good looks. It could be the car they drive. It could be maybe who they're dating, or the grades they get, or the position that they have on the sports team, or in the play that you're a part of. Or maybe it's the attention that they get from seemingly everyone. Or maybe it's the house or the area of town that they live in. Or maybe the reason goes a little bit deeper than that. Maybe the jealousy is something about, like, how they seem to have the most perfect and unbroken family, or how their parents show up at every event that they have, or how they are healthy and never sick, but I am always dealing with these health issues and no one seems to understand. Or maybe it's how they have all of these confident conversations with other people so easily, but you can't even speak up in class. Whether your jealousy is over something small and kind of shallow, or it's something deeply rooted, here's what I know to be true, is that jealousy changes the way that you see others, and it also changes the way that you see yourself. When you see things that other people have that you don't have but you wish you did, jealousy can lead you to feel unhappy about your own life. even if you were totally happy before. Jealousy can make you feel insecure about who you are and insecure about who you aren't. Oftentimes, looking at other people makes you feel bad about who you are. And that's when anger enters into the scene, because anger almost always follows jealousy. That person becomes the source of your unhappy feelings and eventually the target of your anger. When we feel anger towards someone, it is so much more difficult to celebrate the good things about them or the good things that we have and the good things that they have. So what do we do instead? Instead of celebrating people, what do we do? Well, we distance ourselves from people. We talk badly about them behind their back. We secretly make lists in our head of everything wrong with them. It really comes down to we just simply don't like them, and we start acting like it, usually behind the scenes. And all of a sudden, we're not good with them. But in reality, we're really not good with ourselves. We're not content with the place that we are in. And the question is, what are we supposed to do about that? Like, it's really hard to just choose to not be jealous of someone. So what exactly are we supposed to do? If you've ever dealt with jealousy, let me just say, you are not alone. Everyone, high schoolers, adults, everyone has experienced jealousy at some level. And you can actually read stories of people in the scriptures who experience jealousy. In ancient times, there was this dude named Saul who was the first king over Israel. And he was initially known as a good and generous king. He was courageous in battle and generally had the respect of his people. And at one point during his rule, he and his people found themselves in a battle against a fairly powerful group of people called the Philistines. Check this story out. In 1 Samuel 17, this is what it says. Now the Philistines gathered their forces for war and assembled at Soko in Judah. They pitched camp at Ephes Demim, and Saul and the Israelites assembled the camp in the valley and drew up their battle line to meet the Philistines. The Philistines occupied one hill and the Israelites another, with the valley between them. So it's like this perfect setup for a good old-fashioned showdown. But the Philistines had this secret weapon. This is what the story goes like. And it says this: a champion named Goliath, who was from Gath, came out of the Philistine camp. His height was 6 cubits and a span. He had a bronze helmet on his head, and he wore a coat of scale armor of bronze weighing 5,000 shekels. So obviously there's this big dude. He was like known as a champion. He crushed people. Who was going to stand up to him? You might know this story. You might be very familiar with this. And that's when this dude named David stepped in, saying that he was ready. He was going to fight Goliath. And when Saul heard about this, he sent for him. This is what the story says. David said to Saul, "Let no one lose heart on account of this Philistine. Your servant will go and fight him." Saul replied, "You're not able to go out against this Philistine and fight him. You're only a young man, and he has been a warrior from his youth." Basically, Saul is saying, David, you're crazy for thinking that you can take this guy on. But eventually, David talked Saul into letting him, and this is what happened. As the Philistines moved closer to attack him, David ran quickly toward the battle line, just this little guy, to meet him. He reached into his bag, took out a stone, and slung it and struck the Philistine in the forehead. And the stone sunk into his forehead, and he fell face down on the ground. So David triumphed over the Philistine with a sling and a stone. Without a sword in his hand, he struck down the Philistine and killed him. So, as you can imagine, David became like this instant hero for the Israelite people. But this story didn't just end on the battlefield. King Saul promoted David because of his courage. And David delivered. Listen to what it says. Whatever mission Saul went on, David was so successful that Saul gave him a high rank in the army. This pleased all the troops and Saul's officers as well. So like David's a boss, and people are like, dude, he's the talk of the town. Like, dude, David's crushing it. This little guy that we thought that he would never have a chance. He's like all of a sudden being extremely successful. David went on to have extreme success during this time, and it was like everything that he touched turned to gold. All the people loved him. And the Bible says it this way: as they danced, they sang, "Saul has slain his thousands, and David his tens of thousands." How you dance around to that and make that sound good. I don't know. Maybe you can try it right now in your house. But anyways, the people danced. They quite literally celebrated him and praised him as greater than their king. And you can probably imagine how that went over as time went on. Put yourself in Saul's shoes. How do you think he felt about everyone loving David more than him? Basically chanting, Saul's legit, but David's way better. Look at Saul's reaction. Saul was very angry. This refrain displeased him greatly. They have credited Dave with tens of thousands, he thought, but me with only thousands. What more can he get but the kingdom? And from that time on, Saul kept a close eye on David. So as the people continued to praise David for his heroic efforts, they began to view him as greater than Saul. Now, it's not that the people turned on Saul. They just really, really, really liked David. And that's when jealousy began to set in for Saul. It says this in verse 15, when Saul saw how successful he was afraid of him. Saul could have been happy for David in this moment. He could have applauded him along with the people and celebrated the fact that David helped his nation succeed. But instead, Saul felt threatened by David's rise to fame and power. So often are we in this boat. In fact, Saul eventually plotted to kill David and spent a large majority of his life chasing after him in hopes of taking David out someday. Which is crazy because Saul was the one who recognized David's skills and promoted him to leadership position in the first place, right? So what changed? Why did this shift take place all of a sudden? I think the author of Proverbs gives us great insight on how jealousy can lead to destruction. This is pure gold. Listen to what this says. Proverbs 14:30. A heart at peace gives life to the body, but envy rots the bones. Envy, jealousy, it rots the bones. If we're not careful, we can find ourselves in the same position as King Saul. We will quickly see that jealousy of a friend can rot, it can destroy, it can ruin us in a very real way. Like jealousy can destroy friendships. Jealousy can cause us to doubt our own talents and achievements and successes, can leave us completely discontent with our lives. Jealousy can rot how we feel about ourselves. Jealousy can kill our sense of peace in this world. Now, here's a fun fact that we can't not talk about. You know who wrote the book of Proverbs? Well, most people believe that it was Solomon, which is David's son, writing many, many years later. And the Bible doesn't tell us how he came up with the idea, but I can imagine that when Solomon says, envy rots the bones, it would have been something that Solomon would have heard from his father, David, over and over as he was growing up. He saw the devastating effects of jealousy firsthand among his family. And just like Solomon learned wisdom from David's experience, so can we. We will consistently encounter people who seem to have better things in life or just a better life in general than us. And that will never stop. There will always be that. And sometimes that sets our hearts in a strange direction as followers of Jesus. And if we aren't careful, that gut feeling of jealousy has the potential to not only ruin our relationships with others, but also ruin the way that we feel about ourselves. And that is an absolutely defeating feeling in life. Okay, so far, I'm sure you get it, that jealousy hurts us. But what are you supposed to do about it? Like, you can't just decide, I'm not gonna feel jealous anymore, right? You ever tried to just stop doing something like that? It's a little bit difficult than just say, okay, let's just not do it. So think of somebody that you're jealous of right now. Okay, don't be jealous of them. Yeah, see, doesn't work that way. But there is something that we can do, something that like researchers and science says that can actually help the effects of jealousy in our lives. And before we get into that, I just want to say that we can actually celebrate others, because the more I celebrate others, the more I like me. The more I celebrate others, the more I'm content with the life that I have right now. And here are two great ways to put this into practice right now. The first one is this: start with yourself. What I mean by that is look at your own life and determine the things that are worth celebrating. What are you good at? Don't measure yourself up to another person, but what are you good at? What do you think you're good at? What do you have to be thankful for right now? What's good in your life? These might seem like really cheesy questions to ask, but trust me, if you get a chance, write them down. If you have a notebook, write some of those things down. Our perspective shifts when we fix our focus on what we do have over what we don't have. Sometimes jealousy, it gets brought up because we look at the things that we don't have while we measure that up with the things that people do have. So fix your eyes, start with yourself, fix your eyes on the way that you have been gifted, the ways that you have been blessed. And then number 2, celebrate the person you're jealous of. This is a practice that I think is really, really difficult to begin, but I think that it is absolutely revolutionary for us as followers of Jesus. Like when you feel that tug towards jealousy, ask yourself, what can I celebrate about that person? Like, what are they good at? What things what things am I thankful about them? Like, write those things down too. It's really hard to be mad about somebody in the dark when you celebrate them in the open. It's really hard to be mad at somebody in the dark when in person you celebrate them. Because that celebration goes on when you are no longer in front of that person. So celebration and honor, it does something to our hearts. It has a way of shifting our perspective about both them and ourselves. It's easier for jealousy to rot our bones when we keep it in, but when we turn jealousy into celebration, the power shifts. Side note, I'm not saying like a self-pitied celebration, like, hey, so I just wanted you to know that you're awesome, and I think that I'm the worst. So yeah, that's me celebrating you. That's not what celebration looks like. But like a genuine celebration of, man, look at who you are and how God has created you. You're awesome. I love who you are. And like in the background, you're thinking, dude, and I love who I am. I'm not you, you're not me, but I love you for who you are, and I love me for who I am. Like this might be a difficult thing to do at first, and it might seem pointless at first, but if you stick with it and stay committed to the process, you'll be amazed at how it changes how you view yourself and how you see the person that you are jealous of. Spend some time praying and asking for God's help in changing your heart, changing your heart towards who you are and who other people are. As we head into small groups, I want to remind you that God isn't mad at you for being jealous. He understands that we all come wired with a tendency towards jealousy, and he knows how much it can hurt you and your relationships, which is why he wants to set you free from that. Let's be a youth community that chooses to be set free from the shackles of jealousy, because we know how captivating that can be. Jealousy will rot your relationships. It has the ability to rot your peace in this world. But the more you celebrate others, the more you like yourself, the more you're content with yourself. So who do you need to celebrate in these days? You may not be able to talk about them by name in small group because other people know them, but you can begin to brainstorm ideas for how to celebrate others in group. And on your own, you can begin the immediate work of celebrating people you are jealous of. In turn, I believe that you will experience more freedom in your relationships, and you will experience freedom personally as an individual. So what is one thing that you can do this week to celebrate other people? We love you guys. We look forward to seeing you soon. Have a great rest of your night.